What is up, everybody? Welcome to The Shift, our YouTube channel. This is Francisco Rojas, and I have you for a new video today. And we will be recording a new podcast later this week, so stay tuned for that, Nick Earnshaw and myself. But one of our recent podcasts, of course, broke down the Hall of Fame and the recent Hall of Fame inductees. You can go check that out. And Billy Wagner, CC Sabathia, and Ichiro Suzuki all elected to the Hall of Fame and will be inducted later this year. And one certain guy here, Billy Wagner, who gets in on his 10th year, somebody who, as the years went on, got, a little, more and more support on the ballot. And somebody that I think could potentially open the door for a couple of guys like a Kenley Jansen and Craig Kimbrel, who have both slid into 4th and 5th all-time in saves in recent years. But we need to be careful. Just because Billy Wagner, someone who I felt like had a special case when it came to Cooperstown. He's somebody that I was even borderline on for a while, but eventually, I think within the last couple of years, especially this year, I said, okay, he's a Hall of Famer. He's somebody who didn't have the 600-plus saves like Hoffman and Mariano Rivera, but was dominant from start to finish. From year one to literally year, 15 or 16 with Atlanta, who had an ERA under 2, was one of the best relievers in baseball, was elite start to finish. Literally did not have a bad year besides one year where he had elbow issues and pitched like 20 games with an ERA over 6. But every other year, he was elite, he was dominant. Billy Wagner, special case, only 9 relievers in the Hall of Fame. This shouldn't mean that automatically Craig Kimbrel and Kenley Jansen and maybe even future other guys like, K-Rod that's been on the ballot and guys like that, that shouldn't mean that they automatically should just slip into the Hall of Fame because somebody like Billy Wagner is in the Hall of Fame. Wagner was a special case, okay? I'll give you, look, relievers, there shouldn't be that many relievers in the Hall of Fame. Like I mentioned, 9 guys in the Hall of Fame that were bullpen, either relievers or closers. And it should be that way. Relievers don't have as much of a role as a starter does. Starters, and guys that are in the Hall of Fame, we're consistently throwing, 200 innings, 200 or more, depending on what time period we're looking at. The impact they had in the game was much more, not to say that, Mariano Rivera and Trevor Hoffman, Billy Wagner, and Lee Smith, all these guys didn't have, impacts in the game. They did, but it wasn't as much as starters did. There should be way more starting pitchers in the Hall than there should be, relief pitchers / closers. There should be. So there should only be 9, okay? And, and when you're a reliever, you should have, outstanding numbers. There should be outstanding careers, outstanding numbers. Mariano Rivera, most saves of all time. Highest ERA plus of all time. ERA under 1 in his postseason career in 141 plus, 141 innings pitched for Mariano Rivera. Trevor Hoffman was the first to 500 and 600 saves. Top 5 in Cy Young voting 3 times. 287 career ERA. Second most saves all time, right next to Mariano Rivera. And I'll go back even a little further. Hoyt Wilhelm, who somebody that didn't, save the save stat. They were messing with the save stat for a while. For I don't even know, from the 50s and 60s, they didn't even know what they were doing with the save stat. So I'm not even looking at Hoyt Wilhelm's 228 saves or whatever it was. But Hoyt Wilhelm, over, a course of 21 seasons, had a 2.52 ERA, was good for a 1.47 ERA plus. His 2,200 plus innings most for a reliever not named Dennis Eckersley, and Eckersley, like half of his career, was a starter anyway. Third highest WAR for a relief pitcher ever. That's behind Eckersley. Again, a lot of his career as a starter, and Mariano Rivera. Hoyt Wilhelm was, his career resume spoke for itself. Like it was a no-brainer for him to be in the Hall of Fame. So Rivera, Hoffman, Hoyt Wilhelm, even now Billy Wagner. And Wagner was the only guy I really looked at that was borderline, and I was like, okay. And his numbers were just, I felt like he was too dominant to not be in the Hall of Fame. So that's why I gave Wagner the nod. But like a lot of these guys had outstanding, amazing careers as relief pitchers, and they were undeniable. They were the top 0.01% of relief pitchers all time where they could be considered Hall of Famers. They should have been in the Hall of Fame. When we're jumping to guys and we're looking at the recent, like the 2010s primes of the closer, Craig Kimbrel, Kenley Jansen, even Aroldis Chapman. And Jason Stark was asked this question. I think he was asked this in like a mailbag portion of the articles that he writes. And one of them was asked about pretty much the specific question in regards to Wagner and Kimbrel, Jansen, and Chapman. And he said, does it kick open the door for Jansen and Kimbrel? And possibly Chapman? No doubt. That's literally the quote. No doubt. But we need to be more careful with guys like Jansen, Kimbrel, Chapman. Look, Kimbrel, again, undeniably 440 saves, 5th all time. But Kimbrel, especially the last 5 or 6 years, if you look at some of these years he has with the Cubs and even with Baltimore last year, I don't know, man. Kimbrel had some bad years. Like with Baltimore this past year, DFA'd, bad year. Bad year. And some of these years are hurting him. Like, you got to be undeniable, I'm sorry, to get into the Hall of Fame as a closer or a reliever. Kenley Jansen, 447 saves, 4th all time. Jansen might have a serious case. We'll see in the next couple of years. If he can have couple more good years, he could have a case. But, I don't know, man. His peak wasn't as good as Kimbrel's. So, Jansen's another one where I'm like, I don't know, man. It doesn't mean that just because Wagner got in now, that Jansen, Kimbrel, they're slam dunk, they're automatically should be in. I don't want people to think that just because Wagner got in doesn't mean guys like this can get in. Even Aroldis Chapman, who I think Chapman doesn't really have a case like Jansen and Kimbrel might have more than him. Aroldis Chapman, it doesn't even have 800 innings pitched for his career yet. Like Wagner was even kind of on the cusp with his 903, I believe it was. Chapman's got a little more work to do where he can even be considered. So, look, Billy Wagner, special case, had the rate stats. His rate stats were incredible. He was dominant from start to finish. That was the thing about Billy Wagner. It doesn't mean that these 2 or 3 guys that will be on the ballot probably with 5 to 10 years from now. We'll see how much longer that they're in Major League Baseball. Doesn't mean these guys automatically get the nod. So let's just be careful just because Wagner got in, and I'm sure there's even some people out there that still don't think Wagner's a Hall of Famer. So, which I think you're wrong, but still. So let me know your thoughts on this. Where do we stand with relievers, closers, now that Billy Wagner is in the Hall of Fame? I want to know your thoughts. You can tweet me. You can tweet The Shift. You can tweet Nick as well. Instagram, The Shift_media. Follow us there and on TikTok as well. All of that in the description, and you'll see it somewhere here. That'll do it for me, Francisco, and talk to you guys soon.